Following the arrest and interrogation of Jesus of Nazareth, his companions had absconded, fearful of sharing his fate. Only the faithful Mary Magdalene remained, accompanied by 2 other women. One was Mary, the mother of James and Joseph, and the other was Salome. On the 9th hour of the day, 6 hours after his crucifixion, the sad figure on the cross passed away. Here the story of Jesus would have ended. A minor player in a great drama, his life confined to a brief reference by Flavius Josephus in his book Antiquities of the Jews. But in death, his status rose above that of his contemporaries. His memory would endure long after the great men of his day were forgotten. This remarkable outcome is partly due to the actions of several unrelated individuals, who, over the coming centuries, would transform the lowly Tecton into a symbolic leader of a powerful religion. The first such person was Mary Magdalene, from whom he had cast out 7 devils. Her simple tale would begin the first step in this extraordinary journey.
The Messiah, from the God of War.
As a wandering holy man, Jesus was overshadowed by the Hasidim, or holy men of his day, miracle workers such as Onias or Hanina ben Dosa. As a preacher, he was seen primarily as a disciple of John the Baptist. His stage was a mere sideshow in the great empire of Tiberius. Like the other failed messiahs before him, none of his prophecies came true. The kingdom of God did not arise, the Jews were not liberated from Roman rule, and the meek did not inherit the earth. So why did his memory endure? It all begins with a story from his most faithful companion, Mary Magdalene, from whom he had cast out 7 devils.
Possession by demons was an archaic rationalization for mental illness. Exorcism was the cure. Whatever comfort Jesus had given the troubled woman, she became his most loyal friend. When others had absconded in his final hours, she was one of the few to remain. Mary, with her companions, had followed the procession to the place of execution. This entailed some risk, since associating with the dissident could have led to her arrest. Near enough to see the torment, too far to touch, and afraid to address him lest she was noticed, she watched helplessly as the man she loved slowly expired in the agony of crucifixion. From a safe distance, she kept vigil until he passed away. Mary's account of what happened next unintentionally sets the first step in his deification. Typically, crucified bodies were left rotting on the cross for some time as a visible warning to others before being dumped in the nearest ditch. However, according to the scriptures, a man called Joseph of Arimathea, an honorable counselor, in other words, a member of the Sanhedrin, who is not mentioned previously in the narrative, approached Pilate and requested the body to be handed over to him for burial in his own tomb. This was highly unusual. Joseph must have had sufficient social standing to obtain an audience with the prefect of Palestine, or his agent. He also had enough wealth to have his own tomb ready at short notice. Jesus had been arrested only the previous night and was sentenced that morning. Why would such a man decide to bury a poor peasant from Galilee, who had arrived in town only a few days previously and had been executed for sedition? It was a hazardous undertaking. A later explanation, that Joseph of Arimathea was a follower of Jesus who also awaited the kingdom of God, implies his support for a revolution against the privileged group to which he belonged. How Mary, a Galilean, knew Joseph's name is not explained either. There was no record of communication between them. However, his action neatly fulfills the prophecy of Isaiah that he was assigned a grave with the wicked and with the rich. Joseph took possession of the body, wrapped it in linen, placed it in the tomb, and rolled a stone over the door. From a distance, Mary Magdalene and her friends watched the proceedings. It was now late at night. It would soon be the Sabbath, when it was forbidden to anoint the dead. She would have to return 2 days after the Sabbath to perform this duty. On the 3rd day, when she and her 2 companions returned, they were astonished to discover that the stone had been rolled back and the body was gone. In its place sat a young man who told them that Jesus had risen. Terrified, the women fled the scene and reportedly told no one. Various explanations have been put forward for this account. The first is that Jesus was still alive when taken from the cross. The second is that the three women, frightened, traumatized, and witnessing the burial from a distance in the blackness of night, went to the wrong tomb. They were strangers to the area after all. The third explanation is that the corpse was originally left in Joseph's tomb because it was convenient. Since this was Joseph's tomb, the body would have to be moved to a different resting place before decomposition set in. Joseph might have gotten there and removed the body before Mary and her friends arrived. The final explanation is that Mary, or some later narrator, made it up. Whatever the real story, a rumor circulated in Jerusalem that the body of the crucified temple agitator had disappeared. And with the rumor grew an expectation that he had somehow not died, but would reappear among the living. Was it a reckless conspiracy theory by desperate people, or a harmless fabrication gone viral? Whether Jesus had claimed to be the Messiah, according to later Gospels, he did make that claim, as we shall see, but he had no intention of being crucified. There were faint murmurs that he was God's chosen one. In hushed tones and hidden pockets of Jerusalem, clusters of despondent men and women assured each other that he must indeed be the Messiah, despite his lack of qualifications for the role. They prepared to convert others to this view.